everyone, my name is Liz. I'm a teen librarian for Cecil County Public Library at the Perryville branch. And in my video today, I'm going to be showing you guys some techniques that I use when I'm taking pictures on my smartphone. And these are things that you can use either with a mobile device, or you can even use them as inspiration for drawing if you like to draw and you don't have a mobile device available. So some of the things that I'm going to be showing you is how to set up your camera to take a picture, some things that you can look for in your home or apartment that you can take pictures of, and some creative techniques, and then how to edit your photos when you're finished taking them. So I hope you like my video, and I hope you learn a couple of cool things about taking pictures. So before you take your picture, there's a couple things that you want to think about if you want to get the best picture. So the first thing you want to figure out is how is your lighting. My favorite light to use, especially when you're indoors, is to use natural lighting, which is light that comes in from your windows. So I like to wait until the morning or the afternoon when the sun's out. You don't want it to be too strong, but natural lighting is definitely your friend. You can use a flash, but sometimes that can be kind of strong. If you're ever looking for using your flash, it's that little lightning bolt. I usually put it on off, but you can put it on auto so it can sense when it should go off. You also want to figure out what your subject is. Your subject is basically what you're taking a picture of. So that could be a thing, that could be a person, that could be an animal. Remember, if it's a person, make sure and ask them before you take their picture. I usually don't like being caught off guard. If it's a thing, it can be anything. Don't worry about something being too small or too insignificant. Anything can be your photo subject, even if it's something simple. Then you want to think about how your subject is posed. Don't necessarily think that you need to take a picture of something straight on. You can take pictures from all different angles and get really cool pictures. So try and think outside the box when you're posing your subject. One thing that I like to do that you can actually set up as a setting on your phone camera is you can see on this picture there's a grid of little blocks. And the reason that some photographers do that is that it helps you set up your shot. There's a thing that's called the rule of thirds, and you can see those are broken into blocks of 3. So usually they say if your subject falls into those blocks, it makes it look the most pleasing. So if you want to turn that on, you just look in your camera settings to turn on the grid. It's going to say grid usually on most phones. Then the last thing you want to figure out is your camera in focus? And this depends on what you want to be in focus. The whole thing might be in focus or just one little part of it. You can see the leaf on mine is in focus. Where that little yellow box is, usually where you tap, that is where it will focus, and you can kind of move your phone forward and backward to figure out how to get your phone to focus. And it's usually better when there's a good amount of light. That's what will get your camera easiest to focus. And you want to make sure that you're in a stable spot and that you're holding your phone still so that you don't get any blur. So when you're trying to think of subjects to take pictures of, remember that everyday objects can look cooler from funky angles. So even if it's something really simple or something maybe that you wouldn't necessarily think about taking a picture of, look for anything around your house or your apartment. I walked around my apartment and I looked at all different things I had sitting around, and I tried to think of how I could make them look different. So the one on the left is actually the light bulbs in my bathroom, and like I said, you wouldn't normally think that light bulbs would be cool, but they can look really neat, especially when you add different effects, and light always makes them look even cooler. The middle picture is actually the inside of a paper towel roll that I put my camera lens inside of, and it created this really cool effect. You would never think that that was a paper towel roll. The last one is a bottle that I had sitting on my windowsill, and I actually pointed my camera lens into it and it focused on the inside of the bottle, which created a really cool effect. So remember to think about how you can make an ordinary object look cool by looking at it in a different way. Tip number 2 is water is your friend, just not on your phone. Of course, don't get water on your phone, but water can create a lot of really cool effects using it. in your photography. So whether you're just putting objects in water to get kind of cool effects from distortion and reflection, or simply using water on different objects that you're taking pictures of. I had a photographer friend who used to take a spray bottle of water out with her when she would take photographs just to get water droplets on things. Water droplets can create really cool effects. You can see in the farthest right hand picture, this was I literally just got a handful of water from my bathroom and spritzed it on one of my plants, and you can see I got a pretty good droplet there, and the light was really good and it got really clear and it looks really cool. The other two are just water that I put in a glass. You can see the middle one, I just had a spoon in there. You can see the refraction of the light creates kind of a cool effect. So think about how you can use water in different ways, even in different ways from what I showed here. But water can create really cool effects in your pictures. Another tip I like to suggest was something that you can pretty commonly get from your house is to experiment with reflective surfaces like glass and mirrors, and even surfaces of water too. In the picture on the left, I have a multi-pane mirror in my bathroom. You have to excuse my weird little face, but I pulled the mirrors together and I created almost an infinity mirror effect just from my basic mirror in my bathroom, which you could do with multiple mirrors. And you can see that it created all these really cool multiples of my face going backwards. The photo on the right, I actually have a glass prism that my uncle gave me, and I have the sunlight refracted off of the glass onto the wall. So you can create an effect like that with any shiny surfaces, like jewelry, crystals, anything that can reflect the sunlight off of it can create these really neat sparkly effects. So think about anything in your house that has a reflective surface like this to get this really neat effect. Tip number 4 is find beauty in shadows. And what I mean by that is you can get some really interesting shots just by taking pictures of different objects in the sunlight. I like to take pictures of objects that have curves, cool shapes, or cool textures. I think those create the best shadows. The picture in the left is literally a bunch of forks that I lined up on my windowsill when the sunlight was out, so you can see that that created some really cool shadows. I added a filter to it. It made it a really artistic shot, and it's literally just a bunch of forks. The picture on the right, it was something that I just stumbled upon. I was walking around my apartment and I saw the way the plants were behind my curtains, and that created a really cool picture just from the shadows there. You wouldn't think that'd be something interesting, but just walking around, looking around and seeing what kinds of shadows are coming from different objects in your house can create a really cool picture. Tip number 5 is find objects with neat patterns and symmetry. This one can be a little bit more challenging because you do have to kind of go around and look at different objects in your house or apartment with a more artistic eye. You have to kind of go out looking for cool patterns or shapes or things that are the same on both sides. When I went to look for pictures for this tip, I found this plant shown in the picture on the left, and I found out that it had a perfectly circular or a wheel-shaped pattern of the leaves, and I thought that was cool. And then the picture on the right was a wooden frame that I got from Goodwill, and I realized when I stood underneath it, it had this really cool square or cube-shaped pattern. So you have to just kind of walk around and look at ordinary objects and see if you can find some that have cool shapes and take pictures of them. One of my personal favorite tips, this is one of my favorite techniques to use when taking pictures, is the macro shot or the close-up. And this is probably the best for working with any type of object. Anything can look really cool close up. It's more in how you take it and if your lighting is good enough and if your shot is in focus. So I just kind of walked around and looked for different things that I thought would be interesting if I got a little bit closer to them. So the picture on the top left is just a pattern on the fabric of my lamp, and I didn't realize until closer that it looked kind of cool. The bottom left is a pile of buttons that I pulled out from my craft box that looked pretty cool close up with all the different shapes and colors. And the picture on the right is a some fabric art that I had, and I realized it looked really neat with the texture of the stitches and the fabric and the colors. And this is something that you can do with insects, plants. The water droplet shot I took is technically a macro. It could pretty much be anything that has a cool pattern or you think that it would look cool close up. The trickiest thing is getting close enough to it and it's still being in focus. So that's probably the thing that you'll have to try out, use trial and error with the most. But macro shots can come out really cool. Another one of my favorite tips is to photograph objects my color. Now this one can be tricky too because depending on what range of color of object that you have around your house. But if you have some things that that you found that are around the same color, or if you have some cool craft supplies lying around that have some bright colors, these can create some really cool effects. And I notice a lot of people on Instagram like to post things by color, especially people who like to post different books. One of the things, and I know we've done this before at the library, is we posted stacks of books that are of the same color or they're kind of a gradient where they go from a lighter to a darker color, and that's what I did in the photograph on the right. I even included another yellow object I had, aka my bananas. And the picture on the left is a few different types of string, and I actually managed to get a cool shape in the center of it. But when I put them together, it created this colorful wheel. So look around your apartment or your house, see what things you have the same color, see what things you have of different colors that you can group together and have them look cool. Tip number 8 is use one object to frame another. And this is kind of a quirky tip. This isn't something you would normally think of doing. I learned this from other photographers and from seeing other people's work on Instagram, that you can use an object that has a hole in it and almost use it as a viewfinder to look at something else. So you can see in the picture that I have here, I took a mug and the hole in the handle of the mug, I'm looking through it, and I actually have my camera focused on a little plant that's on the other side of it. I just have these both sitting on my windowsill. But this gives you a really cool perspective and a neat viewpoint, and you can use almost anything that has a hole in it to look through it into something else, almost into another world. So try this out as a cool tip. My final tip today is photograph what you love. And that's kind of obvious, it sounds kind of mushy, but it's true. If you photograph things that you care about, things that you're passionate about, things that you've made yourself, it shows in your photography and it shows your viewer. It'll make that photo more special. So take pictures of things that you're proud of, things that you like. So the picture on the left is a pin board that I have. I like to collect enamel pins and I like nature, so you can see they're all different animals. The picture on the right, of course, I love to read, so I took kind of a close-up picture of a book from a different viewpoint so it looks a little cooler. But basically just photograph things that you enjoy and that will show through in your final product. In the last slide here, I just wanted to quickly go over a couple things that you could use to edit your photos on your phone when you're done with them. You certainly don't have to, but if you want them to look more artistic or you want to fix something, or you're planning on posting your photo on social media and you want to kind of spruce it up a little bit, my phone is an iPhone, so whether you have an iPhone or an Android, a lot of these editing functions are in there, or you could use apps to enhance your photos. A lot of social media apps, especially Instagram, can make your photos look really cool. I think they actually make them look a little bit sharper once you put them on there, and you can edit them from there too. So you don't have to do it in your phone. I use an editing app too called Afterlight that you can get some really cool artistic effects from, so if you want to be a little more creative. But just the basics are in your phone if you want to edit your photo. When you look at your gallery and you look at your photo, you're just looking for the word edit. You can see I have it circled on my phone where it is, and once you click that, it should pull up some different settings. So the first setting that you can do is to crop, so that's when you're kind of cutting down your photo and taking out some of the things that you don't need. If you're posting your picture on Instagram, the default is the square, so you can actually crop to a square size. If you look at the top right of the leftmost picture of my phone, you can see there's a couple little boxes on top of one another, and that will allow you to pick a default size. You can actually pick the square, or now a lot of the phones you can take your picture in the square format. It's an option on your actual camera that you can take if you don't want to have to worry about cropping later. You can also do a lot of the basic fixes on your phone. So if you want to add more light, if you want to make it sharper, there's a little magic wand that if you click that, it'll actually, it'll kind of fix it up for you if you don't want to do all that. If you want to add or subtract light, you can either change your exposure or your brightness if your shot is too bright or it's too dark. You can also add really cool filters, which I like to use, especially if the picture didn't come out exactly how I want it to. The black and white filter is really cool if you want to make your shot more artistic. And like I said, on some of the other editing apps, they have some really cool filters that you can add to make your shot more interesting. So these are just some things that you can do to edit or enhance your photos.